What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, and on Zoom, we are here with Patrik Jensen of the almighty Witchery. Great to be able to talk with you today, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's so awesome to have you here. It has been quite a while since we got brand new Witchery. We got Nightside coming out very soon. Being that the last Witchery album came out in 2017, was this just a follow up to I Am Legion, or is Nightside kind of meant to be like a new beginning for Witchery in a way?
Well, it is its own album, so to say. We wanted to have an album out sooner than 2022, but as just like for everyone else, there was a pandemic that put everything on hold, and just because things were on hold, there were bigger names that kind of got priority of choosing when to release an album after restrictions were lifted. So with this extra time that we had on our hands, we decided to write a concept album also. So which in turn, we didn't know this, but it actually demanded a bit more work than we were aware of. So maybe it was a good thing that there was a pandemic, so we had more time to actually write this album. So yeah, so it's been a while. It's been 5 years, but Nightside is its own thing, and we're very happy with it.
Being a concept album, I am a fan of concept albums. People who watch the show know that concept albums are like my favorite topic to talk about. Did you think of this concept, whatever concept is being addressed on Nightside? Did you think of a concept before you all started writing the music, or did this concept sort of develop as you and the rest of the band were writing more songs?
It came after we started, actually. It's just one of those things that we don't usually make plans before we start writing an album. Like, okay, this album's going to have 50% more guitar solos, or this album is going to be just heavy songs. We just, we write whatever comes out, because I think an album is kind of like a like a document where the band is at that point. So you have 10 or 12 songs that kind of say, so okay, so this was the band's technical phase, and this was the band's angry phase, or whatever. So I like it to be spontaneous. So we started to write the album, and about, I don't know, a few songs in, I was actually walking the dog when which is a good what's the word? It's a good opportunity to get some good thinking in. There's nothing that there to disturb you. You just need to do something, and your mind can do some work on its own. And it dawned on me that all of us are huge metal fans and metal lovers, and we never done a concept album. So we wanted to try it with this album, and so we just threw ourselves into it. There was no preparation, no grand plan, or no kind of we have a Nobel Literature Prize idea going. We just, okay, we're gonna solve this, and it was more work, I have to say. I'm also a huge fan of concept albums, like King Diamond, of course, comes to mind, but maybe the best concept album ever is Operation Mindcrime.
Okay.
So that was kind of what we were aiming for. It's not easy to aim for the absolute best thing, but that's also why I'm sure you're familiar with the album. It has these in between songs. There's like there's thunder, and there's rain, and there's a little like radio theater stuff going on, that car that pulls up and the window that goes down, then he says, "Get the priest," and that kind of thing, which I think is really cool, because it adds to the whole story. So that is why on this album there's stuff in between the songs. Like there's one song called "Don't Burn the Witch." You can hear kind of, it's about the like the witch smeller, like the inquisitor coming to this medieval town. You could hear there's a horse coming into, walking from, your left ear, I believe, to your right ear, and kind of entering town because, in search of witches. So yeah, so that's the connection with why there's things in between songs and kind of many words to express our love for the idea of the concept album.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at concept albums, and they've been tackled by all genres, especially in heavy metal. When you look at Fear Factory's Steam Manufacturer, or Mastodon's Crack the Sky, or
Mm.
Sepultura's Alex, or something like that. One thing I want to know of, if a listener wants to get the full context of this album, should they start off with track number one, Witching Hour, and then end with Nightside? Or being that you released these two singles, you released the first song and the fifth song as singles, could a listener maybe approach this album from any different angle?
That was also one of the goals that was more work than I realized beforehand. That we wanted every song to kind of be a chapter in a book, and they would kind of be you know able to stand on its own 2 feet, kind of like I don't know what examples to give you, like X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of connected, but you can watch one episode and you can watch number 5, and it'll still work. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think to get the whole story, it'll be good to listen from beginning to end. But there's nothing. I would still encourage people to check out the single, even if it is song number 5.
Definitely. I mean, I recommend people listening to the whole album and front to back, because it is definitely quite the adventure. Um, would you say that having a concept maybe adjusted to how you played technically on this album as well? Did like the concept influence the style of the music at all? Like if this was an instrumental album, would there be a noticeable difference in the instrumentation as opposed to albums such as I Am Legion, or in his Infernal Majesty's Service, or Don't Fear the Reaper?
That is a good question, because I am a great lover of instrumental tracks. So me being a musician and not a singer, I express myself through playing. So if I hear, many people, I've actually met a lot of people in metal bands that don't consider, if there's no vocals on a song, they don't consider that as a song.
That's
So when you
stupid.
do, yeah, that's crazy. So when you do a set list, okay, so we have time for 10 songs, and then you suggest 9 songs that have lyrics, and the 10th song doesn't, but it's a great song, and fans love it, and they'll say, no, this only has 9 songs. Yeah, this doesn't count. It doesn't have vocals. Like, what? So for me personally, I feel that listening to like a instrumental track, it gives me the chance of filling in the gaps, and like it's a journey with the riff or the solo, and I can make up my own mind what the song is about, rather than listening to the vocals. um this just might be my like a generalization or something, but if you're into if you're into death metal, or screechy black metal, then maybe vocals are just another instrument to you. It's not that important that you hear every word that is said. They just enhance the feeling from the song.
Absolutely.
So yes, to answer your question, the songs are written along with the story, because as a I believe any good story needs to have dynamics. So sometimes there's action, and sometimes there's more reflection or whatever, so there's yeah, dynamics basically.
Yeah.
And if there's a action filled part of the story, then that it needs to be an action filled song. Could be a fast song, just to keep it simple. That's a fast song. If it's a song in the story where things move a little slower, then that might be a heavy song, like a slower track. And that is one of the main things that took time, more time than I realized. Because usually when you write an album, you write 12 songs, you record 12 songs, and then afterwards you go, okay, so this one turned out the best. That'll be number one. This will be number two, blah, blah, blah. And these two songs we'll keep for Japanese bonus tracks because they turn out okay. And that's what you do. So, but when you have a concept album, they need to be in that order that you've given the lyrics. So this needs to be the first song. This needs to be the second song, and so you can't take any chances. So you really need to do all the work beforehand. I hadn't even thought about that actually. So yeah. So to answer your question, it would not be different if it had been instrumental. I would try to do the same kind of thing with the music. Because I think it's important that the music reflects what's going on.
Well, I've always said, and I don't care whether this is towards music or visual art or a film or whatever, nobody's going to care about the meaning if it's not going to be appealing. Like I wouldn't be interested in the concept of this Witchery album if I wasn't headbanging to it and enjoying the living hell out of it, which is the case for me. And therefore, I want to dive in deeper. I think with any album that has a concept behind it, you're only going to you have to engage the listener in with the music first. So you could have the most. I can't. And by the way, I can't tell you how many times like there have been great lyrics, but the song itself wasn't really that fulfilling. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And you mentioned the Japanese bonus tracks too. I heard a little rumor. Is it true that the tracks that usually end up being Japanese bonus tracks are usually just like the tracks that are mutually hated by the band? So when they need a bonus track, they're like, "Well, here you go."
Well, they're not hated, but they're probably the tracks that didn't quite turn out as they were expected. So that is why they're not on the album that is available for the rest of the world. Japanese albums, they need bonus tracks because Japanese albums printed in Japan are so expensive.
Yeah.
So it's much cheaper to buy imported, like from the US or from Europe. So in order for Japanese companies to not go bankrupt and, for there to be a metal market in Japan, they need to have something extra to offer. So that's why there's usually one or two extra tracks on Japanese pressings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that it makes sense that most bands would choose the songs that maybe aren't, as successful or didn't turn out that the way they wanted, because the Japanese fans won't get tricked. They will get all the songs anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like you'll be missing out anything. It's yeah.
Yeah, it's because every time I interviewed an artist, I would always ask them, "Tell me about this bonus track. Why wasn't it released?" And the reaction has always been the same. "Oh, I hated that song. Oh, we didn't want." So like, I was just wondering if like the bonus tracks are really just the leftover tracks.
Oh yeah. It might be for other bands, but we never know really beforehand, before the studio, because so many things happen from between rehearsing and writing them to hearing the finished thing. So it's always after the fact. Then we decide the order of the album and so on.
Definitely. And being such a prolific artist between Witchery and The Haunted and Satanic Slaughter and so many other bands, is the creative process different depending on what band you're playing with, or is there some sort of method behind the madness that ties in all the projects together?
I'd say it's a bit it's different between The Haunted and Witchery, because with Witchery I write everything, including the lyrics, and with The Haunted we've always been three music writers, and then there's been the vocalist has handled the lyrics. So even though you are helped, say that you have 10 songs to write for an album, if you're three guys, it's about three songs each, you know. So if you get stuck, you get help by the others because they can, okay, so try this or try that. But also you need to get your ideas past the two others. They need to say, okay, so that song is better than my song or something. You know, if you have a healthy communication, you can value each other's ideas on a, you know, level playing field and not always say your own stuff is better. But with Witchery, I write everything, so more or less everything goes. But then again, there's a lot more to write because there's not two other people that can, you know, if you're tired or you know whatever's going on in your life, there's no one to pick up the ball. Yeah, I mean, it needs to be you. So there's pros and cons between both bands.
Yeah.
But I'd say that I usually write everything with Witchery in mind because it can give you writer's block if you feel that two people are going to look through this with critical ears or something.
Hmm.
With Witchery, I don't have that pressure. I can write more, and then this sounds more like The Haunted. So then I get something for free all the time when I write for Witchery.
Um,
So yeah.
and kind of going back further down to your career, because even before like Witchery and The Haunted, you had other bands such as and I do forgive me if I pronounce these incorrectly, but Science as well as Orchis, right? Could you help me out with this one?
Yeah, seance is just a normal seance, like I don't know, a Ouija board or something.
Seance,
And
yeah.
Orchrist is the a sword from The Hobbit,
Oh, really?
Tolkien's The Hobbit. Yeah,
Okay.
with my own spelling, but I was 16 back then, so
Yeah, I mean, I always like going to Metal Archives and kind of talking about like the earlier stuff because I know that with Seance for Never Laid to Rest is actually 30 years old today, and I was just wondering if maybe some of the earlier projects that you were involved with kind of maybe influenced what we heard in The Haunted or Witchery as well.
well, there is a what do you call it? Like a what do you call it? Like a red thread through. I mean, the band names like Seance, The Haunted, Witchery. There's this theme of ghostly things. So that is something that all my bands have in common. Actually, I also played shows or a lot of tours with Brujeria, and Brujeria in Spanish
It's Witch,
means
right?
like a black magic or something.
Really?
Yeah, so witchery, basically. So there's this strange theme going on with whatever I play with. Yeah, so there was this first band I had, Orchrist, 16 at the time, couldn't, there was nothing that mattered more than the guitar. So I wrote so many songs. We only recorded a three-song demo, actually. But there were so many songs that for the longest time, I just had a treasure trove of riffs I could just dig from and, put into newer songs. So I think there's Orchrist riffs in songs all the way up until Don't Fear, Witchery's Don't Fear the Reaper. That was 2004, maybe. So yeah, they have kind of influenced my bands all the way back.
Which is pretty cool. I feel like every artist, like whether they intend to or not, their past is always gonna follow them with their technical playing as well. You learn different habits and different tricks and all that.
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. That's the thing actually. When you are several players or several people who write the music, then you need to understand what they're, because your fingers always want to do what's familiar to you. So playing in a band where someone else writes a riff or a song, then you need to understand what that guy is. Okay, so this is how he does it, and you need to kind of adapt. And of course, that person needs to adapt to your writing as well. I'd say it's a pretty educational, or it's inspiring to play in a band where you're not the sole songwriter, because you get to grow as a musician, because there's new ways of thinking, and so you can do it this way, or you can place the fingers here or something. It's always beneficial to try playing other people's music.
Absolutely, absolutely, and songwriting and technical playing are also two completely separate skills altogether. And I think you could learn from both skills by watching other people as well.
Yes, I agree.
And I have two more questions for you. When it comes to getting into that songwriting mode or to get that inspiration, that sort of creative drive, do you prefer to be in the company of your other bandmates? Being that The Haunted has three songwriters, as you mentioned before, or like, do isolation being such a great fuel for creativity, you prefer to write music or come up with ideas when you're alone and there's nothing between you and your instrument?
Yeah, so I think I know that I write the best music when it writes itself, and this might sound like it's I don't know how to, because I said this once in a press statement, and my record company said, well, this sounds like you did it while you were yawning and didn't care, but that's not what I mean. When you get inspiration and you write a riff, and you immediately afterwards you feel, oh, it should go something like this, and then it just your hand takes you there, and then it becomes some kind of gut feeling force that just brings it forward. And then, because it doesn't sound contrived or forced, people will react to it, that it sounds fluid, and it sounds direct, and hits your instincts. Wow, this is really where I was hoping it would go, and that kind of thing. Because compared to when you write a song and it takes forever to finish, that's usually a sign of you come up with too complicated what's it called, passages from one riff to another, because you have to make it work, and it starts sounding like it just sounds like you're building the weirdest castle or something. Whereas the best songs I've written, like for Witchery, there's a song called The Reaper. With The Haunted, like 99 is our most popular song. I think I wrote that in maybe under 5 minutes. There's another opening track for the Haunted Maybe Do It album called Dark Intentions. That is maybe like our call signal. Like when we play that, people go nuts. And that is, I think I wrote that in the same time it takes to play it, because it was just go bump, 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 bump. And I started to play something underneath it, and then it just one thing led to another, and that this is it, just all fired up. So I prefer actually to be in the presence of my bandmates, because then things can latch on to each other. Like, okay, I have this idea, and the drummer goes, yeah, and then you just feel that it needs to go somewhere. Whereas when I sit alone, I have this great idea, and then I record it, and then I need to do the drums. I need to click or whatever. I pull MIDI patterns in there, and it takes time, and it kind of slows down the instinctive process, if you understand what I mean.
100%.
I kind of, yeah. So I like it to be more people are chipping in, and it might not be all great ideas, but people are feeling it. That, oh yeah, this is good, and you start to get goosebumps. And okay, throw in the whatever drum track, and then go down on the octave here, and then afterwards, like, well, what happened? And and when you have that kind of rehearsal, it's almost better than a great gig, because a great gig is a great gig, and they can happen anywhere, which is a good thing. But writing a song that everyone immediately recognizes that we did something great here, that's like solving like an ancient math problem or something. You have really done something.
It's an
Yeah.
epiphany because it's one thing to also come up
Yes.
with a great idea by yourself as an artist, but like to work with other artists and cultivate your own experiences together. It almost seems like
Mm,
every time that happens, it almost seems like it's lightning in a bottle.
exactly. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I prefer to, yeah, to be with other people to kind of, okay, it's happening here and now. We're gonna take this idea and run with it. Let's see where we can take it.
Well, you definitely did, and may I just say that you might be the first, because I've asked this question to a lot of artists, and you might be the first whoever said that you prefer to be with other people. Every artist, regardless if they're playing rock or they're playing death metal, a lot of them prefer to be alone with each other, or
Yeah,
alone by themselves.
I'm not that kind of control freak. I mean, I play with people because first of all, I like them as people, but also because I like their playing. And I mean, with Witchery, I still write everything, but I feed off the feedback that I get from them. If they go, okay, we can try it, and then we go, oh yeah, let's try this. Then I know already from their feedback, like, okay, maybe I should go home and think about that part again, and because they are the band's first critics and the band's first fans, so to say.
Definitely.
So I think it's important to not just lock yourself into a basement and noodle away. I mean, there's a time and place for that kind of band too, but no, I grew up on ACDC and stuff. I like to feel stuff from the gut.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that with Witchery. And I think like I would say the biggest difference for me between Witchery and The Haunted is that I feel like The Haunted has like, and I'm talking as a fan analyzing it, The Haunted has more of an atmosphere. I feel like it more surrounds you, whereas Witchery is all about being in your face. That's my interpretation of the differences between the two.
Yeah, well, that might be true. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to tell from the inside.
Well, you got an outside source from here.
Yes.
And the final question I wanted to ask you, kind of going back to the whole concept album route, do you feel that like and this doesn't even have to be for this particular concept album, it could be for any album, concept or not. Do you want every album that you make to be representative of who you are at that particular time, like a timestamp in a way? Or do you think that the meaning and the music can evolve with you over time? Like you look at it differently as an artist and it still teaches you new things as you progress.
Um, Speaking as a music fan myself, uh, I would say that, like I think I touched upon earlier, that an album, I like the concept of 10 songs or 12 songs an album. I like the album format because it tells you where the band was at that point. And as compared to the music that are based on EPs, like singles, like single songs. I know some artists, when the internet was young, they released a song every month and made it some kind of subscription thing, blah blah blah. But I feel that with just one song, it's not enough to understand what the band was going through at that moment. So looking back, like if you're a I mean, I might sound 100 years old here, but if you're a Zeppelin fan or if you're a Black Sabbath fan, you can hear the different periods that the band is going through. So kind of um, the technical era, or this was the where everyone was going through a divorce. So the album is dark and moody, or maybe the divorces were a good thing, so it's a happy album. I don't know, but I think an album is an album, and then it can be hated at the time, which is fine. Well, of course, every band prefers the album to be loved, but it can be hated at the time, and then afterwards, it can be discovered for what it really was. And like, I'll just name an example here. Are you a Black Sabbath fan?
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know their whole catalog. I'm 28 years old, so they're kind of past my
Yeah,
time. I got into metal through different stages,
that's
but
fine. But they have an album called Born Again, which Ian Gillan sang on. Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. and they thought it was going to be the super group of all super groups. Black Sabbath teams up with singer from Deep Purple and the drummer from ELO, actually Bev Bevan, and the album cover, it's like a red baby with a purple background and longer fingernails, like a witch's fingernails, and it's just the worst color combination ever. And it's so, people say the production is muddy and everything, and it was hated at the time. Ian Gillan said that he got 20 vinyl copies of the album. He broke all of them because he hated the cover artwork so much, and he threw up because it made him sick. Wow. But all these huge death metal bands like Cannibal Corpse or Obituary, and I know so many other bands that they love this album, and I love this album too, because it has songs on there called, like, for example, Zero the Hero and Disturbing the Priest, which are kind of the first death metal songs ever. People didn't realize what it was back in '83 when the album was released, but it I was 13 at that time. I was impressionable. It meant something to me. And later on, I started playing death metal, and so did kids in Florida and Germany and Great Britain. And it meant something to a whole movement. So that album has actually, gotten respect after the fact, that this is something really important happened here.
The most recent example for my generation, and not kind of a little apples and oranges, but maybe you heard about it through metal news. 2017, Suicide Silence releases an album that has a lot of clean singing on it, and it became the most talked about album of 2017 in the most negative way. There were memes about it. People were saying the most atrocious things. It was a huge fallout over that album. It's still talked about to this day. They still play the single off of it, and every single deathcore band or band that started in that deathcore genre has now been incorporating clean and melodic stuff on it. So I think for every album that's hated in one way, in the end, it also leads to another thing. And I think another great example is Saint Anger. So,
yeah, you know what? Because metal is a very traditional, traditionalistic music. It needs to be a certain way, and there's true metal bands just that play heavy metal, and there's a true metal festivals in Germany. I know, any band that steps out of that safe zone, they will get a lot of flack. But then also, there's no way to create anything new if you don't.
Yeah.
So it's good that bands dare to do this. Yeah. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if no one dared to try, then we'd still be British wave of heavy metal. Everything would sound like the first Maiden albums or something.
Well, I think you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You do something different, people are going to criticize you for being directionless. You do the same thing over, people are going to criticize you for being repetitive. I think in the end, your gut feeling is always the right answer.
Exactly. You need to please yourself, because if you're trying to please someone else, then your band will slowly wither away. You won't like it. You don't know why you're doing this. It has to be fun for the people in the band.
Definitely.
So just be true to yourself. I mean, that's an old cliche, but it is actually what pays off. And let bands have like 30-year careers or something.
Yeah. Just because it's a cliche doesn't mean it isn't true.
Right.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such a great in-depth conversation. And thank you for that Black Sabbath Born Again listen. I'm going to remember that one. Is there just anything else with Witchery or even The Haunted that you would like to promote in terms of, we got this brand new Nightside coming out very soon. Could we be seeing Witchery on the road quite a bit? And anything else you would like to promote?
We would absolutely love to come and tour the U.S. with Witchery. Probably the U.S. is our biggest markets, like fan-wise, so to say. We had a great U.S. tour with Emperor way back. And, we would love to come back to the U.S., basically. So we're going to try really hard on this album to do a U.S. tour. And Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait. People are really into Witchery in the US. So
Awesome. We look forward to having you back. Everybody, we are here with Witchery. Be sure to check out Nightside when it comes out. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.